What are you doing the rest of your life? North and south and east and west of your life. I have only one request of your life, that you spend it all with me. All the seasons and the times of your days.
I first met Naomi when I was at Potch Boys High, and she had been invited by an uncle and aunt in Johannesburg to go along with them to take out their children for an outing on a Sunday afternoon at Potchefstroom. They were also at Potchefstroom Boys High, and they were friends of mine. They invited me to come along, and we had a pleasant afternoon. We had to be properly dressed when we went out, with blazer, school blazer, tie, and straw bow tie. And it was a very hot day, and Naomi asked whether she could borrow my hat, my bow tie, which I did, and we had a very pleasant afternoon. And my only reaction was, this is a nice looking chick, but nothing further. She was then about 15 or 16. Some 18 months later, I met Naomi through my friend Mike Lubner, her cousin, who invited me to a New Year's Eve party which had been arranged. He said he had a partner for me as well and would organize everything. He went to Naomi and said, I've arranged for you to go with my friend Issy Rudolph. You remember we met him at such and such a date, and you're going to partner him to the dance tonight. She explained that she couldn't go with him because she'd promised somebody else. And Mark said, don't worry, I'll sort him out. You're going with Issy Rudolph. And we went to the party. We had a lovely evening and became a little more serious, but nothing great. And it was months later, or even perhaps a year later, that I realized she was in love with me, or I was in love with her, or both of us. Trying to keep up with my studies and not having much spare cash, we didn't see much of each other.
You were saying that it was difficult to...
Difficult financially. I couldn't get around easily on trams and whatnot.
You used to borrow suits, you told me.
I had to borrow a suit when I wanted to take her out to a special party or anything, from a friend of mine, Avi Mizrach. He was an advocate. I used to visit Naomi on a Sunday afternoon in Orange Grove. They had a little house there, and I had to come from Yeovil. Sometimes I could afford the tram fare, sometimes I couldn't, I had to walk. And after tea, I would get up and go home. And of course the family would sit down and say, what's he like? But her parents used to say, now cut him out, he's only a tea drinker, he's not a good prospect.
Did you have a lot of competition?
I had a lot of competition, chaps with those beautiful motor cars, lots of money to spend. And I must say that Naomi used to tell me about them, and I said to her, please don't stay home. By then we were getting serious. Do go out with these people and enjoy yourself. And what will be, will be. But I must tell you that I can't take you to the cinemas and I can't take you here or there. To which he agreed, and this is how we survived the next few years.
So you had a lot of competition, you were a tea drinker.
Yes.
Well, what do you think it was that bonded you and Naomi?
The advantage that I had, I was such a good-looking guy. tall, handsome, and I really can't explain it. It's something inexplicable. It's inside. We were married in November 1942, but there were a few hitches attached to this. I was invited to come to dinner to meet various members of Naomi's family on the Friday night before getting married on the Sunday, and at her mother's flat. I was due to leave Middelburg on the Saturday morning, on the Friday morning early, but could not get away because my locum hadn't arrived and had an urgent case to attend. I think it was a maternity case. I couldn't leave her. And secondly, there was such heavy rains throughout the whole area that travelling was reduced to minimum speed. However, when I got to Johannesburg around about 8 o'clock that evening or a little later, I knocked at the door of the flat and it opened about half an inch or an inch, and when she saw it was me, she closed the door. I tried to explain who it was. She didn't want to know my problem. Eventually, I think her mother opened the door and could see that I was anxious and worried and must have looked extremely tired, having been on the road about 8 hours instead of 2. I explained what happened, and Naomi cooled down, and she made me a nice cup of cocoa, and we sorted things out. But what upset her was during the dinner, an aunt of hers from Durban had said to her, "Darling," came and stood behind her, said to her, "Darling, don't worry. There are better fish in the sea than have come out of it, and this happens quite often to people. The chap lets them down at the last minute." So you can imagine how she felt. I was thinking, is this an omen? Should I or shouldn't I get married? Anyway, we went through with it, and we lived happily ever after.
Very happily ever after.
Very happily. Supported each other every turn.
How long were you and Naomi married?
We were married for 68 years.
And how would you describe your marriage?
Wonderful. We cared for each other. We considered each other at all times.
What kind of a woman was she over the years? How would you describe her and her interests and abilities?
Naomi was a very sincere person. If she chose a friend, she stuck to them and made allowances for any problems that may occur between them. She wasn't talented, but she worked at various things that she undertook. Being in Middelburg and having time on her hands, she learned to do crochet work. She learned to do this artwork on material, and really had to work hard at it, but persevered and I think made a good success of it. We played in the tennis group, and her mother was visiting us one week, and for holiday one occasion, and I was called to the hospital on a Saturday lunchtime. Naomi was ready for tennis, and she couldn't go down because she didn't drive at that stage. I can't remember why. And the traffic cop, the local traffic cop, who also belonged to the club, came to find out why we didn't come to tennis. So she said, "I'm waiting for you." So he said, "Hop on the back," and drove her down on the motorbike. And one of the Yiddish women saw this and reported to the mother-in-law, "What is your daughter doing on the back of a motorbike of the local traffic cop?" she was a good sport. And then when we came to Joburg, she was invited to join a group of girls who played at a club, at the Old Edwardian Club, I think, first, and then they moved to another one. And these girls played together, the same girls, for something like 30 years. On our 58th wedding anniversary, I made a few notes. 25 or 50 or even 60 anniversary is a miracle. To reach even 58 is a miracle, but not quite as simple and straightforward. One has to work at it to earn your stripes. When two people decide to share their lives, you have no idea how it will turn out. But with the original trust in each other and mutual respect for each other's opinions, that is step one. The finer points like a tender touch, a helping hand, a compliment when due, some lucky breaks, and wow, you've hit the jackpot. Thank you, my darling, for those things and a lot more. Our wonderful children. A word of advice to the young ones. Never become complacent. Keep working on the partnership.
When did she die, Issy?
On the 16th of July, 2010.
I didn't meet her, but she seemed to have been an extraordinary woman.
She was. Really.
You're a lucky man.
I am.
This is a letter written by my granny Naomi to my grandpa Issy on Mother's Day 2003. To my darling Issy, why you're special. Until I fell in love some 60 years ago, I never really knew that I could care for you the way I do. And now you're the most important part of every day, every dream and everything we cherish. In my heart, I always like to think of you and all the joy we shared, and how nice it's been to have a guy like you who cares. And with each thought comes wishes, especially warm and true, to wish you good health, a carefree holiday, for you mean so much to me. I love you always, and thank you for the special day. Naomi.
If I had a choice, I'd do it all over again. Nobody else.